Man, I'm bored. There's nothing to do here. Huh. Looks interesting. Wish I could learn a little bit more about this. This story starts back in the 1930s, smack dab middle in between the World Wars, and a guy named Walt Disney was doing very well for himself. Famous guy, I hear. Never heard of him though. He created a mouse that was doing well at the time, as well as other shorts based on music named Silly Symphonies. But it was growing to a point where all that fancy art and animation was getting a bit expensive to produce and less money was being made as a result. So in a decision that was one half business and the other a true passion for the medium of animation, Walt Disney announced in 1934 that he was making his first animated feature film. Literally everyone thought it was a dumb idea. The film industry not only thought it was dumb, but also silly, goofy, idiotic, a destined failure, a bad idea, stupid, idiotic, and the non-official name of the project from the public was Disney's Folly, which really sounds tame as an insult. Would have personally gone with Disney's stinky idea, but I don't know, maybe that's a bit much. Everyone thought that making a cartoon that long would just get boring, especially if it was just gags all the way through. And one of the more colorful excuses being that seeing all that color was a health hazard. Yes, going to the doctors and him telling me that the color red is bad. Nah, that's not funny there. Even Disney's own brother Roy told him that the movie idea didn't really sound all that great. Of course, Disney didn't really care as he only went on with the idea. But he also mortgaged his own house for the film after the budget swelled up and the money was drying up fast. Wow, what a moron. I don't even have a house and I know that's a bad idea. And he still needed an additional $250,000 loan to finish the project. So what was Walt's plan that he seemed to put so much confidence in, even risking his own house? Emotion.
Oh well, we tried.
Rather than just try to make people laugh, he wanted to bring a variety of emotions, like joy, fear, whimsy, and even make a person cry. Judging that people got scared of a film train thinking that it was gonna run them over, I don't think it would have been that hard to make someone cry back then, but the goal was still admirable. After so many months of animating, hand cramps, and production later, the film was finally ready, and Disney wasn't slacking on the promotion either as he had newspaper ads, trailers promoting the release, and even prominent names in the film industry to attend the premiere at the Cathay Circle Theater in December 21st, 1937. One of the most prestigious theaters at the time, as well as being on the same day as National Shrimp Day. So you know Disney had a lot riding on this film's success, as he risked not only his reputation, but his company, his employees' livelihoods, and even his own. Oh yeah, and Walt Disney may have blacklisted Snow White's voice actor from performing or acknowledging that she was Snow White in order to preserve the illusion, all for nearly $1,000 back in the day, which if this movie failed, would have ruined her career all for nothing. God damn, Disney's kinda messed up. This was the make or break, the do or die, everything was on the line. Where have you been? The movie went on to be a massive success. People loved it, a lot of people saw it, and it won a lot of awards, including one that had 7 little babies. But nobody knows where the mommy award went. So yay! Disney's not poor and he gets to keep his house. I still say that mortgage wasn't that great of an idea, but hey, everything worked out well. But then, we're nearly 90 years since its creation, and it's in this weird spot. Whenever you look at reviews on this film, modern or not, a lot will mention on this being super impactful for the film industry and calling it one of the best films of all time, while others kinda call it overrated, noting that a ton of films that came after it are objectively better. But does that excuse the faults of the movie? And so what makes it so beloved to this day? Well, I guess that question will never be answered because I don't got a TV to watch this. Huh. Where's the DVD player? So I guess I don't have an excuse anymore. Let's give this a try and see if I like it, hate it, or if I feel passionately nothing about it. So yeah, it's the one that started it all. In the US. And technically it's the first animated film on cells, So yeah, this poster is infamous and it's a lie!
You lied to me.
And a clear homage to the great cinematic classic, Shrek. This movie starts with a literal storybook opening. And here is a good point to talk about the plot and how it's handled. The movie just started. This is obviously a fairy tale story, if you couldn't tell. That means, for the most part, you're taking some liberties with this world, which is only added with the animation. But you also kinda have to go into the mindset that this is a fairy tale story, and so it's gonna be simple by nature, so that all audiences can go into it and not be bombarded with a million side plots or details. But even going by fairy tale standards, Snow White is as basic as a plot as it can be. The beginning starts out fine, as we're being introduced to our main characters like Snow White and the Evil Queen, but it's as soon as Snow White runs away from the forest, that's when everything slows down. The pacing is sluggish at points, where scenes are padded out because if they weren't, then this would be a much shorter movie. But how come the movie is like this? Well, I found something to explain that. Look at this. The writers for Snow White. Notice anything about them? None of them are writers. Yeah, this list is made up of cartoonists and animators, and so it explains the very loose plot since none of these guys didn't really have any film experience. Remember, first revolutionary film here, so it feels much more like a really long cartoon that isn't always funny than a totally unified plot. That was something that was fixed as fast as Disney's next film Pinocchio, as it actually went out to hire a real screenwriter to work with the animators. Plus, I think the story is being authentic to the original tale it's based on, excluding some details like having the queen die by dancing with some high-iron slippers instead of fall damage. So I feel like Disney wasn't fully prepared to really deviate from the novel enough, because even he was a man who realized some things are a bit too risky to try.
Never try, never fail. Those are the words I live by.
Especially if it's your first go. But even then, why don't I really care about the plot being shallow? It's simple, but I think it works for what it's going for because this movie does a great job in developing a tone. Remember when I mentioned that Disney wanted to inject some emotion into this film? Well, it worked! That simplicity leads to a charm of just appreciating the art and animation that goes into here. It's like when you go on a walk in the woods, and while not a lot may be happening, you can just take your time and admire the trees and the beauty of your surrounding. I think that's the goal and why scenes drag out as long as they do. It's not so much about developing characters or going on a grand adventure, it's an excuse to look at all this art. Like, that's probably the first thing you notice when going in, that there's some damn tasty animation here. The overall aesthetics are pleasant to watch, even though most of them happen to be in the woods. It feels like I could get lost in these woods, it's seriously so good. But then it could change the atmosphere to be more sinister, which only works even better because 80% of this movie looks like this. This only makes stuff like this stand out more, and it's probably why people remember the forest scene or the evil hag the most when they finish the movie. The tonal whiplash works wonders without being jarring. And the character animation for the most part is incredible! It's something that I didn't even notice on my first time watching, but each of the dwarves have a distinct way of moving and how fast they move. Like some dwarves are slower to react like Sleepy or quicker like Happy. Like look! Each dwarf has its own walking cycle, each with their own little personality and character. That's some serious effort right there. Like, I hate Disney if you came by my office and said that we were gonna animate at least 7 different characters at the same time. But as a watcher, it looks so good to look at. And the animals are animated pretty good too. Even though I can tell there was some animal favoritism over at Disney because at times, you can have some graceful deer running about and being cute and all, and then this. What is this supposed to be? It's supposed to be a raccoon? How did they butcher my boy? The animation just works for whatever scene the story is trying to convey, like fear, or even the mourning of Snow White at the end, where even if you came at the end of the movie and just saw this scene, more chances than not, you'd probably tell that this is a really somber scene. But this is the point where we hit another decisive aspect of the movie. The use of rotoscope. In case you don't know, rotoscoping is a technique of filming live-action material and tracing over it for either reference or to directly use it. And that's something people don't really like because the movements may come off as weightless or weird, or it just looks bad. It's mostly because it looks bad. I'm mixed on this idea because there are some elements here where I can go, oh yeah, I could definitely agree on that. But I could argue that rotoscoping may actually enhance some characters or even a scene. Let's start off with the good. I actually do think the rotoscoping works well for the evil queen, mostly because of how she's more stylized than the other proportionally accurate characters, and so it's less off-putting to me. But it's when the evil queen gets old where the rotoscoping becomes a net positive. The way that the old hag looks as she moves just brings out an unsettling feeling. She's not the kind of person I like to see in an alleyway, if you catch my drift. Everything combines to enhance the tone of the scene, in which an unsettling person is plotting to hurt this nice little innocent girl. But on the other side of the coin, we have the nice little innocent girl, Snow White. Yeah, she's just not that fun to look at. Now, to give credit where credit's due, the animators didn't solely trace out of the references for her, as there have been interviews where the animators have stated that they had to redrawn over the references since some of the proportions weren't right for them. But I think it's the art style of Snow White that doesn't really work well. Everyone has a stylization that works well for them, but Snow White just leans too much into realism that becomes not good to look at. Now, there's definitely ways that you can make her more appealing to look at, so maybe you could change up her proportions so her eyes are bigger and cuter. Or maybe just get rid of the irises and just have her eyes be like Grumpy's. I'm no professional, so I hope this makes sense. If anyone wants to clear up on why I'm wrong on this front, go ahead, yeah, I probably am. Oh yeah, the same could be applied to the prince, but I forgot about the prince since he's a pretty bland white toast of a character, so I guess I gotta talk about the characters now. I already gone through the prince. Again, he's bargain bin stale bread. Snow White is nice, and she's nice. Yeah, I got nothing. She's just a nice person to everyone who she meets. Now, that can work, but she's just nice. It's just hard to talk about the Snow White of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, because she's just nice. The evil queen is cool to watch her be evil and actually have a motivation throughout the film other than survive, but she really doesn't appear enough. And if you really want to stop and think about it, the queen isn't really that threatening and more just petty. Like, if you're gonna kill Snow White for being prettier than you, either step up your game or send out an award, because as far as I know, there's only 4 people who live on this kingdom. Oh yeah, there's a huntsman! But he kind of just evaporates from the story and we never hear from him again, so I guess he got lost in the woods and they never found him. But that's just me nitpicking. Now, the dwarves might be the most interesting characters in the story because they actually do stuff. They talk to each other, they argue, they have fun, think. They're the most realized characters in the films, which must have been hard because there's 7 of them. So it makes sense that we're going by Smurfs logic here by having each of their personality be their name. So Sleepy's Sleepy, Bashful's Bashful, Happy's Happy, and Doc's Doc. So I guess having a profession counts as having a personality now, okay. The most prominent of the dwarves are Doc, who fancies himself as the leader, Dopey, who's the silent comic relief of the group, and Grumpy hates women. Hey, I didn't say that. Uncle Walt told me.
Sourpuss here is Grumpy, the woman hater.
To be fair, it's better than how Anchorman handled misogyny. Grumpy at least grows to care for Snow White, even though there's not much of a reason to it, he just kinda likes her suddenly. Character arcs are definitely not a thing that this movie prioritizes. Rather, it goes for characterization, which shows the characteristics of characters. So we see how these different dwarves each react to a newcomer at their house, whether they're nice or a bit gruffer, and so I feel like it's easy to get attached to them as a result. But there's a couple of deleted scenes and ideas that I wish would have made it into the final product, because while some choices are understandable, others are like, why did you cut this out? Here's some of the things that ended up not making it in the film, or were just straight up cut. The prince being thrown in the dungeon by the evil queen, a different interpretation of the prince meaning Snow White, a more fantastical version of when my prince will come, the dwarves eating soup, the dwarves making a bed for Snow White, the dwarves arguing about Snow White staying, which explains a jarring cut that can be seen here and here. And a lot of these scenes were straight up removed in order to tighten up the story. Says the people that thought making a song and entire scene dedicated to the dwarves washing their own hands was important.
Get him!
Some of these scenes could have worked if they were just tweaked a bit. Like maybe the dwarves eating and making a bed could have been nice moments to see how the dwarves' bond with Snow White grows over time. And the prince being thrown into a dungeon would have given more time for both the prince and the queen, two characters who would have only benefited from that. Especially White Toast over here. Also, the huntsman maybe would have been here? So yeah, that's a fun fact. Oh yeah, and there's also a cut song from here. Oh no, I forgot the songs! I can't really talk about the songs or else Disney lawyers might find me. So I'll try to explain what I have to say, and you can use your imagination. Or the internet, that works too. The music is fine. I'm not really a music guy, so I can't really tell you the composition or if the lyrics are the best thing to hit music since Ludwig van Beethoven's 5th Symphony, but I thought it was neat. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I thought it was neat. So overall, did this not age well? Yeah, some stuff I just don't really get or care about, but there's still a lot of stuff here that I still like. The simplicity, while it does mean that we're getting a basic plot, brings out a charm to it like I'm imagining these stories in my head. The emotions are all still there, with some genuinely great scenes. Like with Snow White running through the woods and imagines all these scary things in there. Or the climax, where the dwarves are racing back home as the hag gives Snow White the apple. The music swells up as the hag gets excited as she's about to win. I could just hear the audience from 1937 yelling at Snow White, "No! Don't eat that damn apple!" That charm isn't something that I think will ever erode, so I guess it depends on the kind of person you are. If you're a lot more critical on things and such, this will probably be boring to you, but for the people that cling onto that childhood wonder of theirs, I think this will be good. You know, talking about films and such is kind of fun. Maybe if I get a fancy chair, then I could be considered a reviewer. Oh. Oh well. It was a nice try. Oh, a plane. Wait, did something fall out of it? What the heck is that? Oh my god!